Good afternoon, beloved, and welcome to this edition of Let's Chat America. I am your radio host, Reverend Dr. L. Ronald Durham. So delighted wherever you are today, your home, your automobile, your car, your office. It is a blessing to be on the airwaves on this beautiful Thursday afternoon here in the city, gorgeous Daytona Beach, Florida. We're broadcasting live from the studios of Joy 106.3 FM. This is Daytona's favorite gospel station. Of course, you know Let's Chat America is all over the country, and even listeners from outside of the country, internationally, around the world. If you would like to join my conversation, you know what it's going to be all about today. Yeah, if you want to join the conversation, pick up the phone, dial those 10 numbers, 386-516-8030. Cora Miles, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. Happy New Year to you and to all of our listeners. This is the first broadcast of Let's Chat America in the new year. Patricia Ann, we see you on the Facebook Live feed as well. To all of you who are watching us by video on Facebook Live, and to those who are tuned in on your radio, we're so happy to have you on this beautiful day. We see you all coming in. We are so delighted that so many are watching the broadcast today. Call me. We got to talk about what happened yesterday and other events that have gone on this past week. The number is 386-516-8030. Pick up the phone, dial those 10 numbers. If you want to join my conversation, it is 386-516-8030. You should put that phone number in your phone. That is the live call-in number for Let's Chat America here on Joy. Put it in your speed dial, so all you have to do is press a button and you can call me and get on the air, talk to me, and talk to our listeners about what is going on right now. Mary Beth, thank you so much for your comments on Facebook. 386-516-8030. Happy New Year again to all of you who are listening. 2020 is in the rear view mirror. We thank God for that. We know 2021, we're praying 2021 is going to be a banner year for all of you who are listening to my voice today. And I am decreeing and declaring in the name of God and his son, Jesus Christ, that you will be blessed abundantly in 2021. Of course, we've got a lot of things going on this year. The pandemic is still raging around the world, and especially here in the state of Florida, we're seeing upticks in the pandemic. So being safe is extremely important and vital to all of us who are listening and watching. Of course, you know, Bishop Gamble, we see you. Thank you, Bishop, for tuning in via Facebook Live. We see you on the Facebook feed. The vaccine rollout is happening here in Florida, across the country. Vaccines are now being administered. Limited supplies. Unfortunately, we're in the early stages of the vaccine rollout. So the supplies are, of course, limited. Not only are the supplies limited, but there is some confusion with how it is being administered. Some sites are asking that you would register in advance. Other places are opening up and first come, first serve. So there's no universal policy across the country, or even in the state of Florida for that matter, on how the vaccine will be administered. So please be watchful. The hospitals and health departments across the country are issuing. Pete Carter, Pastor Carter, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. Blessings to you, my brother, as well. There are press releases that the departments of health, as well as hospitals who are receiving the vaccine, are issuing so that we can try to have at least some kind of smooth rollout when it comes to the administration of the vaccine. Right now, in most places, it is our caregivers, those on the front lines, nurses, doctors, in our hospitals who are receiving the vaccine first, and right behind them, of course, our senior citizens in most places are at the top of the list. So just be watchful as to what your area, your city, your county is doing, because the more vaccine we get, the more arms the vaccine can go into. Right here in Daytona Beach, we've been blessed to have a vaccine rollout. People have gotten the vaccine. More than 2,000 individuals thus far have received the vaccine here in Daytona Beach. The county of Volusia is also rolling out vaccine distribution. And so we're going to see a pickup. There'll be an uptick in the vaccines as they come out. Of course, today, you know what we're talking about. Fiasco in Washington, D.C. Excuse me, my voice is trying to mess with me today. Devil, you are a liar. But just unbelievable events happening in Washington, D.C. On yesterday. My wife and I have written a new sort of, it's kind of like a devotional, but it is also a illustration, a book of illustrations that we just completed. And I want to read you illustration number 123 from our new ebook. It's called A Word to the Wise. That's the title of the new ebook that we just finished. It's on our website. And the illustration number 123 is called The Motives of a Maniac. Now, when we wrote this, we weren't necessarily thinking about number 45, but of course, the title says it all. The Motives of a Maniac. Listen to what illustration 123 in my new book, A Word to the Wise, says. Much can be said about a person who stirs up strife. First, there is the question of motive. What does he hope to gain? Then there is the question of gratification. What pleasure can he hope to experience? A provocateur has his own agenda, and it's often the motives of a maniac. He kindles strife to his own advantage. He selfishly embodies what Solomon calls a contentious man. Such a person seldom suffers any ramifications himself, but often leaves a clearly discernible path of destruction behind him. Solomon teaches that avoiding these types of people is not a weakness, it is a wisdom. Proverbs chapter 26, verses 21 and 22 read, "As coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife." Powerful. That's from my new book, A Word to the Wise. It's a book of illustrations, over 100 illustrations that are on my website that you can order and have emailed to you. But that's illustration number 123, The Motives of a Maniac. Now, that was written before the events in Washington yesterday, and I thank God for the gift of prophecy and being able to see. My grandmother had that gift of prophecy, and she used to say to me all the time, "Boy, I can see way down the road." And I used to wonder what that means, being able to see way down the road. And what it meant was God had endowed her with wisdom and a gift. And oftentimes her gift got me into trouble because she could see things that I hadn't even done yet that I was going to do. And so The Motives of a Maniac, illustration number 123 from my new book, A Word to the Wise. Give me a call. We're going to talk about number 45 today. I'd like your input, 386-516-8030, 386-516-8030. As I was coming into the studio today, there was a notice on my phone from CNN, and Trump has been banned from Facebook at least until the end of his term. Now, Twitter has already banned him for 7 days, for actually 12 hours. So his Twitter feed should be back up. They started that ban about 7:15 last night. That ban lasted for 12 hours. So undoubtedly, he is back on his Twitter page today. But Facebook took a little extra step and banned him until the end of the term, but they added a little bit of gravy on it, and they said they may continue to ban him even beyond the end of his term. And that came directly from their CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. So Trump's already been banned for 12 hours on Twitter. Now Facebook is saying he is banned from Facebook for the rest of the term, which is just another 2 weeks. And perhaps beyond that, they're going to continue to ban him. Perhaps Twitter will follow suit and ban him at least for the rest of the term and maybe beyond. Blessings, Sister Cora. I see your post on the Facebook Live feed. You know, I'd be honored at any point to be on your program as well. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the Facebook ban for the rest of his term, maybe beyond, the Twitter ban that lasted just 12 hours. What do you think about that? 386-516-8030, 386-516-8030. The Capitol building of the United States of America, yesterday called by at least one elected official a hallowed or sacred spot. The Capitol building has only been breached one other time in its history. Yesterday was the second time that it was breached. But the first time that the Capitol building was breached was during the War of 1812. That's a long stretch from the War of 1812 until yesterday. But what you saw, and I'm sure that just about everybody who's listening to my program today, you saw at least some of what was going on in Washington, D.C. as Trump supporters wearing the MAGA red hat, flags with his name on it, being held in their hands as they marched to the Capitol building, urged by Donald Trump, who even for a brief moment said that he might go with them, walk with them to the Capitol. But of course, he's a coward. So all he wanted to do was get them excited, get them egged on to walk to the Capitol on his behalf. He turned around and went inside the White House so that he could sit in the dining area of the presidential suite and watch what unfolded from his own mouth about what these people should do. It was, of course, none of us in our lifetimes have ever seen anything like it. Now, there have been protests in Washington before. One of the most famous protests, of course, was the March on Washington led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But there is a difference between peaceful protest and what we saw yesterday with our own eyes on television. That was not, by any stretch of anyone's imagination, a peaceful protest. Those were anarchists. Those were traitors to this country, following the traitorous words coming from number 45 and acting on what they heard. Even in the midst of all 50 states certifying the elections and in certifying, thereby allowing us to know that there were no improprieties, there was no mass voter fraud in any one of the 50 states, and particularly in those states that number 45 was contesting: Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Those were the primary states that he wanted to contest. And all of the electors, all of the legislators in those states and across the country verified with their electoral decisions that thorough investigations had obviously cleared those electors to vote according to the will of the people in their state. Some 60 lawsuits were tried and failed by the Trump administration. But he continually agitates, and he's like a little child. If you remember growing up, there was always that one child who would be the main agitator, throw a rock, and hide their hands behind their back and put an innocent look on their face as if it would be impossible for them to have done anything. But then they would watch their friends, after they've agitated and stirred them up, they would watch their friends do what they were too cowardly to do themselves. And we see that in number 45. And it was outrageous. It was the most sickening thing to watch. And there were points where I couldn't watch it. Pastor Darrell Bass, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. To all of you who are watching us, we're so happy that you are tuned in to the #1 talk show here in Daytona Beach, Florida. On Thursday, this is Let's Chat America. Of course, you know we're talking about number 45. We're talking about the events in Washington, D.C. If you want to join my conversation, if you have something you'd like to say, come on, give me a call. Let me get you on the radio so you can share what you're thinking. The phone number to call is 386-516-8030. That number again, 386-516-8030. The breakdown of the perimeter of the Capitol building that should have been secured by law enforcement and should have been secured by a military presence of at least the National Guard, if not more. all of that was lacking. There was absolutely no serious preparation for what took place on yesterday. Now there were a couple of barriers that they had put up, the temporary barriers, but those individuals that were insurrectionists and seditionists that attacked the Capitol building, those barriers did very little to stop them. There was even one incident where, from what it looked like to me, it looked like one of the police officers actually opened up the barrier, removed the barrier, opened it up enough so that protesters could go through that area where that barrier was and walk up to the steps of the Capitol building itself. Now, I'm sure that's on tape. I'm hoping that Congress and those departments in Congress that handle this kind of thing, the Homeland Security area, the Judicial Department or Committee, they should begin an immediate inquiry and hold hearings immediately, starting today, on where these breakdowns were, because it appeared that very little preparation. And Colin Powell was interviewed on yesterday as well, General Powell, Secretary Powell, and he even stated that total lack of any serious coordination with those events that happened on yesterday. The Washington D.C. police, certainly on their own, did not have the manpower to deal with those tens of thousands of rabid insurrectionists that arrived in Washington, D.C. There had to have been a much more robust effort if you're going to be serious about protecting the Capitol, and not just protecting the building itself, which, it was called sacred yesterday by some of those in Congress, but the people inside the building. I mean, these are individuals inside the building who had a job to do, and that job was to certify the electors' decisions in all 50 states, confirming President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris to be sworn into office on January 20th. Now that was going to happen no matter what the small band of Trump supporters in Congress did. They didn't have enough support to overturn the will of the people. And you need to remember, for those of you living in Florida, those who in Congress were part of this insurrection included Senator Rick Scott from the state of Florida. Even after Congress left for several hours because of the breach of the Capitol area, they left for several hours. Many of them obviously began reflecting on what they were seeing and hearing happening outside the building, and their conscience kicked in. For some of them, it kicked in, and they recognized that this was not the time for them to be playing the games they were playing in their role as senators and persons in Congress. One of those who did not get a conscience was the senator from Florida, Rick Scott. He played it all the way to the end. Now, of course, we know Ted Cruz, he wants to be president. We know Hawley, who was the first senator to raise his voice, saying that he would object. He did that only because his aspirations are to be president as well. Now, Hawley just got elected. He just got elected. Hasn't even gotten the seat warm yet that the people in his state put him in. And already he's aspiring to be the next president of the United States. And using this incident where he was able to be one of the insurrectionists, using this incident to put out fundraising tweets and messages to followers to send him money based on treason. J Music Carson, we see you on our Facebook feed. God bless you. So good to see you. Beatrice, we see you on the Facebook feed as well. Pastor Darrell Bass, we see you on our Facebook feed. All of you, beloved, we're so happy that you are watching the #1 talk show in Daytona Beach, Florida on Thursday from 12 to 1 o'clock. This is Let's Chat America. Blessings to you, J Music. Now, if you want to pick up the phone, the line is open. You can join my conversation. We saw history made yesterday, not in a positive way, but it was history that was so negative. Deacon Gillis, we see you, son, on the live Facebook feed as well. This was a sad day in America. It literally brought tears to my eyes watching it. And then you should be able to go back to when I think we've got a caller on the line. Let's see if we can get the caller in today. Caller, welcome to Let's Chat America. What's your question or your comment?
Yes, this is George. I'm calling in to make a comment about what's happening in our great nation at this time.
All right. What is your...
Now, sir, I'm an American that's very disgusted with what's happening in Washington at this time. Never in the history of our great nation have we have had this happen, where a sitting president is preventing a new incoming president that's legally and lawfully been voted into office by the American people, as Donald Trump has done. He needs to go now. They need to implement the 25th Amendment and remove him from office, because what he has done is unlawful, is unethical, and it's un-American. I am a voter. I am a veteran. I've served this country for 6 years. Sacrificed for marriage. Made a lot of dedication to this country. And what Donald Trump is doing and is inciting violence in our nation because he's mad that a Democratic president was lawfully put into office, he needs to go. He needs to go now.
All right.
I am a Georgia resident. I'm visiting my aunt down in Daytona. I am a lawfully registered voter. My vote was not done in fraud. I'm a law-following citizen. I have a legal right to cast a vote in the state of Georgia. For Donald Trump to get on national television and tell the people of this great country that the vote in Georgia was fraud, that the vote in this America was fraud, no, it was not. I am a lawfully fighting citizen. I'm here. I have a legal right to cast my vote for who I want to choose as my president. I chose Mr. Biden because I thought he's going to make this country great, greater than it's ever been in the past 4 years under this sitting president. He needs to go. And I'm calling on all law-abiding great citizens of this country to contact their congressmen and to support our new president that's coming in, and that is Mr. Biden. Donald Trump needs to get out of office, not on the 20th. He needs to go now. As he continues this mess of exciting violence where 4 people were killed, injured, causing all this chaos in this country, is un-American. He is not making this country great. This country has not been great in the past 4 years, sir. And I'm calling in to voice my opinion. Again, I'm calling on all citizens in this country to stand up defend this great country. We are a great nation, a great people. And what Donald Trump has done to this country is a great insurgent. He has not made this country great. His antics have made us the ambassador to the whole entire world. We should be leading the world as a great nation, a great democracy. Donald Trump has undermined that in every area, socially, politically, religiously, morally. He needs to go. He has broken the law time and time again. We need to exercise the 27 minutes and get him out of office. I thank you all citizens for listening, and I love you all. Let's make this country great once and for all. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate it. Take care. Take care. All right, there you have an outraged citizen expressing his opinion here on Let's Chat America. And he's from Georgia. And calling us here in Daytona Beach to let us know what he's thinking about what happened on yesterday. I hope you feel like he feels, because it was outrageous. It was history in one of the most negative ways that you could see it or experience it here in this country. And as the caller mentioned, one of the things that made all of us, I'm sure, proud to be Americans is our stand for democracy and the democracy around the world. Nations who gave up, rebelled against dictatorships in order to institute democratic principles in their countries. They were looking at this nation. They were studying our Constitution, which helped them to draft their own constitutions in nations around the world. So can you imagine? Because the world was watching. The entire world was watching what was going on in the United States yesterday. And they're still watching, because there are things we can do. There are things we can do now to ensure that something like that never happens again. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be Congress needs to immediately enact the things and put in place those things that would make what happened yesterday something we never see again. Reports are the FBI are asking for persons to identify people that they've seen on the television screens. Many of them, of course, not wearing masks, faces in full view. And we certainly want to encourage anybody who's listening to Let's Chat America, if you saw a face on the air yesterday and you know a person that was involved in the mayhem and insurrection, please call your local FBI office, give that person's name. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to identify yourself, but we need to identify these traitors and make sure that they are held accountable. Vernon Neely in Passaic, New Jersey, my cousin actually. We see you on the Facebook Live feed. We love you, appreciate you and the family. Hope all is well up in the great state of New Jersey. If you want to join the conversation, our first caller was from Georgia. You can pick up the phone. You can give us a call. The live call-in number is 386-516-8030. That's 386-516-8030. Dial those 10 numbers. The line is open right now. You can join me here. I'm live in the studios of Joy, 106.3 FM. This is Daytona's favorite gospel station, and you're listening to the #1 talk show in Daytona Beach, Florida. And we have listeners from all over the country. I think we've got a caller calling in right now, 6419. You are on Let's Chat America. What's your question or your comment?
I just have a comment, and good afternoon. I think that what took place on yesterday was just a replay of what has been taking place throughout history. And as many have stated, that it wasn't a surprise for us or to us that something like that happened. And it's just another attempt, I believe, for God calling us to repent. And it's another chance for our Caucasian brothers and sisters to make a stand, choose which side they're going to stand on. And it is really heartening, disheartening, again, for this to have occurred. But again, it was no surprise. And it's sad because, again, like you said, if it had been black or brown individuals, they would never have gotten that far.
Right.
At all.
That's right. That's so true.
So we just have to really continue to pray as people of God and just really hold our community, hold our leaders accountable, and for us to also come together. It's time for us to, look at the bigger picture for our community, put our differences aside, and for us to come together because we have other ethnic groups throughout the United States that are grouping together and building their community. So we have to continue to regroup and do the same. So it's, not major in the minor things, but we have to really focus and be strategic and pray and ask God for wisdom as to how we move forward and come together, putting the differences aside and really come together and let's move forward and demand change, make a stand for change, and be the change too.
All right. Well, thank you so much, beloved. We appreciate you calling in. And keep listening to Let's Chat America.
Will do. God bless.
God bless you. Bye-bye. All right, that's all you have to do. Those 10 numbers, you know what they are. 386-516-8030. 386-516-8030. 6762, we got you live. What is your question or your comment?
Hi, I'm one of your listeners.
Bless
My
you.
nephew just got on the phone, George, and he said it all.
All right.
He said everything I was about to say. Amen, amen.
Amen.
But at the same time, I'm embarrassed for our country. I couldn't believe what happened yesterday. It shouldn't have never happened. But anything goes with Donald J. Trump. And people, it's about time people stand up and see that man for who he is.
Yeah.
He is terrible for this country. He's a thug. He doesn't care what he does, do or don't. And it's really sad. When I watched what happened yesterday, no, I'm not saying tick for tat, but if that was Black Lives Matter movement, we know what would have happened yesterday. We would have had a bloodbath in Washington, D.C. We would have had a bloodbath right there. Enough is enough. This country has been divided over the last 4 years. And it's getting worse and worse every day.
Yeah.
And then people in Congress or whatever, the Democrat people and all them hateful people, it's time they pull this, they draw a string and stop this man from doing the things he's doing. It is sad. God has spoken. The people had voted. Now let the church say amen.
Amen.
It's time for Donald J. Trump to get out of here.
All right.
Enough is enough.
Well,
like I said, God has spoken. The people voted. I voted. No, I'm going to let the church say amen.
All right.
God bless you and keep this show going because we love this show.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Miss.
Bye-bye.
Bless you, Mother. God bless you. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. We want to thank that sister for calling in, passionate, and our other sister for calling the show today. We just have to, Reverend Hall says it all in his Facebook post that he just put on the live Facebook page. We do have to get back to God. And he gave us the scripture, 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face Turn from their wicked ways. Hallelujah. That's the Bible. God said, then will I hear from heaven and I will heal the land. We believe God is able to do it, and he is doing it. We see the change, and the change is so obvious that it had to be the hand of God in this. And that's why number 45 is so upset. He cannot believe that he lost the election. He can't wrap his brain around the fact that there are people who don't like him, that there are people who see through him, and that there are people who want to see a change in this country. We have come too far to go back to some of the nonsense that he was resurrecting in this country. And you've heard the callers, and it was on my Facebook page yesterday. If you saw the difference between the Black Lives Matter movement and the security that was on the steps of the Capitol. I put that post on my Facebook page. There were soldiers in their camouflage gear with their long rifles, standing on the steps of the Capitol, shoulder to shoulder, at least 7 or 8 lines of soldiers all the way across the front of the Capitol building when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, peaceful. And let me just say this, not just Black Lives Matter protests, but peaceful protests, genuine protests over issues that were truthful issues that we face in this country. What you saw yesterday was the result of lies perpetrated and continually stated by number 45 over and over and over again. And you know what people say? If you say it enough, long enough, people will believe it. And he uses that tactic over and over again. Alberta, I see you on the Facebook Live feed, beloved. God bless you. Thank you for being there watching the broadcast today. If you want to join my conversation, everybody who's out there, you know what to do. Pick up the phone, dial those 10 numbers, 386-516-8030. That's 386-516-8030. Great calls today. And we still have time. It's 43 minutes past the hour. You can get your call in. Love you, Bert. Thank you so much. And a couple of the callers mentioned removing Donald Trump. And the Washington Post editorial board took an extreme step yesterday on Wednesday. This is from the Huffington Post Black Voices. The Washington Post editorial board is calling for President Donald Trump's cabinet, the cabinet, to remove him from office after he encouraged a mob of his supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol building. The piece that was published in the Post's opinion page or opinion section on Wednesday night reads, and I'm going to quote from their opinion. It says, quote, "The president is unfit, you think, to remain in office for the next 14 days. Every second he retains the vast powers of the presidency is a threat to public order and national security," end quote. That's from an opinion piece from the Washington Post. It goes on to say the editorial board urged Vice President Mike Pence and the rest of Trump's cabinet to meet immediately to evoke the 25th Amendment And that is a law that allows the vice president to take over presidential duties if the president is no longer able to do his or her job due to sickness or disability. I'm going to stop right there because Donald Trump has both a sickness and a disability. He has a mental disorder because the reports were that as he was watching television from the dining suite in the White House of his private residence, the reports were that he was literally almost giddy, almost happy, as he watched his insurrectionists and those that follow him storming the steps of the Capitol building. He was almost giddy, almost to the point of bursting out with laughter as he watched it. And that is because, obviously because, there is a mental incapacity that this man has. He has no sense of empathy whatsoever. He has no sense of anyone that he is concerned about other than himself. And so the 25th Amendment states that if there is a sickness or disability that the president has, that 25th Amendment allows the cabinet of the president to immediately decide if the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the White House. Unable to discharge the powers and duties of the White House. I'm going to say that a third time. Unable to discharge the powers and duties of the White House. We're sitting here in the middle of a global pandemic that has wreaked havoc in the United States of America. We now have a vaccine that Moderna and Pfizer, and soon others like Johnson & Johnson, will be approved. But there is now a vaccine that is able to address and curtail the spread of the coronavirus, the infections of individuals who take the virus. That 25th Amendment says if the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the White House, he or she can be replaced as a result of the cabinet executing the 25th Amendment. Now, the duties of the president include protecting the citizens of this country. We have seen zero effort by the President of the United States since the election to address the concerns that are being caused by the coronavirus, which is infecting thousands and killing thousands on a daily basis. He's unconcerned about it. He has made no statements about any kind of plan, any kind of action that is coming from his administration as it relates to how we get a unified, concerted effort to roll out the vaccine and get it into the arms of the majority of the people in America who will take it. Zero. He has no concern about that. So discharging the duties of his office is one of the things that the 25th Amendment says can affect the cabinet coming together and remove him from office. I'm concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about the nuclear codes. This man literally has his finger where he can push a button and discharge nuclear weapons across the globe. With a mental state that he appears to be in right now, and seeing his history, he's capable of anything. He's capable of anything. And the cabinet needs to, as the Washington Post opinion said yesterday, they need to come together, invoke the 25th Amendment immediately, and remove him from office immediately. Beloved, 13 days is a long time. You can do in that office that he holds, you can do unspeakable damage, not just to the United States of America, but to our friends and allies around the world. Things that would take perhaps a generation or more to reverse. That's a dangerous person to have sitting in the Oval Office. Let me get back to this opinion. This, as I said, this is from the Huffington Post Black Voices. It went on to say, the article says, quote, Americans put on their seatbelts, follow traffic laws, pay taxes, and vote because of faith in a system. And that faith makes it work. The highest voice in the land incited people to break that faith, not just in tweets, but by inciting them to take action. Mr. Trump is a menace, and as long as he remains in the White House, the country will be in danger, end quote. This opinion piece, written by the Washington Post, says it in very clear language. They say he is a menace. And as long as he remains in the White House, the country will be in danger. Those are powerful words coming from the Washington Post. Sister Cora, you're exactly right. He needs to go now. But right here in Florida, this Washington Post opinion piece also has input from the Miami Herald right here in Florida. The Miami Herald editorial board also called for Trump to be removed from office in an article that the Herald published on Wednesday night. The board called Trump, quote, deranged, dangerous, and incapacitated, end quote, and urged Trump's cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. The article reads, this is from the Miami Herald, the article says, quote, there can be no doubt that the president is prepared to have his minions scorch the earth and blow up democracy in order to stay in power. He is that determined, that desperate, and that indifferent to anything other than staying in the Oval Office. America cannot wait with fear and bated breath to see what abomination comes during the next 13 days, end quote. Now that was from the Miami Herald. Just outrageous activity that they see with their eyes, that you see with your eyes, that I see with my eyes. And so the 25th Amendment gives the cabinet, starting with Vice President Pence, gives the cabinet the ability to come together, recognize the incapacitated state of number 45, invoke the 25th Amendment, remove him from office, and then allow Vice President Pence for the next 13, 12 days, whatever remaining days there are, to step into the role of the presidency until January 20th, when Joseph R. Biden is sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. And really, I think Joseph R. Biden should be sworn in as the 45th president of the United States. We should erase Donald Trump from every history book, from every mention on a national level as ever being the president of this country, because he has taken us down a total path that could lead to permanent destruction. And so, in my opinion, he should be removed and erased from history, never to have his name mentioned again as ever holding the office of President of the United States. He's been a disaster. He has been a total and complete disaster. It is 56 minutes past the hour. You are listening to Let's Chat America. The opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Joy 106.3 FM. Just wanted to give that disclaimer. We've been having some minor technical issues with our station. We're getting new equipment that's being put in shortly, so we're kind of working around a lot of the things that you would hear me normally play during the broadcast, my intro and outro and the disclaimer, those kind of things. I'm totally able to interject those things now until we get the system fully restored to where we need to be. But we're able to broadcast it. That's the main thing. And you're able to call in. You're able to express your thoughts here on the radio, because this is a talk show. And I like to talk, but I also like to hear what you have to say as well. So we hope that you will continue to watch the broadcast, continue to listen, and moreover, share the broadcast with friends and family. We want to grow this broadcast. We're heard all over the country. People are calling in from everywhere. We appreciate that. We want to grow. We want to continue to have outreach to the point where we're hopeful to get syndication in place at some point, where we will be in other stations being broadcast live on the air. So all of those are goals that we're striving to reach and to attain here at Joy 106.3 FM, and particularly here on Let's Chat America. I'm going to be bringing back guests to talk about issues with the coronavirus. Probably next week we may have a guest, we'll see. But we got a lot to talk about in the next couple of weeks as it relates to what's going on in Washington. And I really want to focus on that at least until the inauguration and beyond, because we need to stay on top of this. We need to be watching it. Who knows what these underground minions are planning for January 20th. The leader of QAnon was part of the insurrection yesterday. His picture was clearly on camera. He was the one with the horns on his head and some fur coming down around the sides of his face. It looked like an old raccoon hat that he had with horns on top of it, just to ignorant looking. So we're going to stay on this. We got to stay on it. Our country's at stake. Our lives are at stake. Our peace is at stake. And so we're going to continue to fight the good fight and make sure that I keep you aware and you're able to talk about what's going on in your country, the United States of America. I'm Dr. L. Ronald Durham. You've been listening to Let's Chat America. I'll see you next time. Love you. Happy New Year to everybody.